seeking a worthy successor to inherit his dark legacy. Pleased with Ajadi's descent into tyranny, Anansi offered to teach him even more powerful and dangerous spells. In the heart of West Africa, nestled along the tranquil banks of the Black Volta River, lay the village of Nzulezo. Unlike any other, Nzulezo was a marvel of human ingenuity, a village built entirely on stilts. Wooden walkways connected homes, shops, and meeting places, creating a vibrant community floating gracefully on the water. Lush greenery surrounded the village, and the sounds of birds and river currents filled the air, creating a serene ambiance. The people of Nzulezo lived in harmony with nature and each other. They were fishermen, weavers, and traders, known for their hospitality and strong sense of community. Wisdom and tradition were deeply valued, and the village elders played a crucial role in guiding the younger generation. It was in this idyllic setting that a young man named Ajadi was born. Ajadi was different from the other children in Nzulezo. From a young age, he displayed an insatiable curiosity and a keen intellect. While his peers were content with the simple pleasures of village life, Ajadi was always asking questions, seeking to understand the world around him. His parents, humble fishermen, encouraged his thirst for knowledge, hoping that he might one day become a wise and respected elder. As Ajadi grew older, his quest for knowledge became more pronounced. He spent countless hours with the village elders, absorbing their stories and teachings. He learned about the history of Nzulezo, the ancient traditions of their ancestors, and the natural world that sustained them. Ajadi's dedication to learning earned him the nickname AJADI the Wise among his peers. Despite the wealth of knowledge in Nzulezo, Ajadi yearned for more. He wanted to explore the world beyond his village and learn from different cultures and peoples. With the blessing of the elders and the support of his family, Ajadi embarked on a journey to quench his thirst for wisdom. His travels took him to distant villages, where he sought out the most learned men and women. In each place, he listened to their stories, studied their customs, and absorbed their wisdom. He learned about the stars from a tribe of nomadic herders, the secrets of herbal medicine from a renowned healer, and the art of storytelling from a master griot. Ajadi's journey was not without challenges. He faced harsh climates, wild animals, and the occasional hostility of strangers, but his determination never wavered. After several years of travel, Ajadi returned to Nzulezo, his mind brimming with new knowledge. The villagers welcomed him back with open arms, eager to hear the stories of his adventures and the wisdom he had gained. Ajadi wasted no time in sharing what he had learned. He organized gatherings where he taught the villagers about the stars, medicine, and the power of storytelling. His teachings enriched the lives of the people of Nzulezo, and his reputation as a wise and knowledgeable man grew. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Nzulezo, a stranger arrived in the village. He was an old man, cloaked in tattered robes, with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of countless years. The villagers, curious and wary, watched as he made his way to the center of the village, where Ajadi was teaching a group of children. The stranger introduced himself as Anansi, a wandering sage with knowledge of ancient secrets. Ajadi, intrigued by the man's presence and the mysterious aura that surrounded him, invited Anansi to stay and share his wisdom. Over the next few days, Anansi revealed tales of forgotten lore and hidden truths that captivated Ajadi and the villagers. One night, as the two men sat by the fire, Anansi spoke of a powerful artifact, a talisman said to possess immense knowledge and magical abilities. The artifact, he explained, had been hidden away for centuries, guarded by ancient spells to prevent its misuse. Ajadi listened intently. His curiosity piqued. Anansi offered to lead Ajadi to the artifact, warning him of the dangers that accompanied such power. Ajadi found himself at a crossroads. The promise of unparalleled knowledge and power was tempting, but he remembered the teachings of the elders about the dangers of greed and ambition. Torn between his desire for wisdom and the warnings of his mentors, Ajadi struggled to make a decision. Despite his reservations, Ajadi's curiosity got the better of him. He agreed to accompany Anansi in search of the artifact, driven by the hope that it would allow him to further help his people. The two men embarked on a treacherous journey through dense forests, across rugged mountains, and into dark caves. Anansi guided them with an uncanny sense of direction, leading them ever closer to their goal. After weeks of travel, they finally arrived at an ancient temple hidden deep within the jungle. The temple was covered in vines and moss, its entrance guarded by stone statues of long-forgotten deities. Anansi recited an incantation, and the heavy stone doors creaked open, revealing a dimly lit chamber. In the center of the chamber lay the artifact, a small, intricately carved talisman that glowed with an otherworldly light. Ajadi felt a surge of power as he approached it, and for a moment, he hesitated. Anansi's voice echoed in his mind, urging him to take the talisman and unlock its secrets. With trembling hands, Ajadi reached out and grasped the talisman. A wave of energy coursed through his body, filling his mind with visions of ancient knowledge and untapped power. He saw glimpses of the future, the secrets of the natural world, and the mysteries of the cosmos. It was intoxicating. However, with this newfound knowledge came a dark presence. Ajadi could feel the weight of the talisman's power and the malevolent force that accompanied it. He remembered the elders' warnings about the dangers of forbidden knowledge, but it was too late. He had already crossed the threshold. As Ajadi and Anansi made their way back to Nzulezo, Ajadi could feel the changes within him. The talisman had given him immense power, but it had also awakened a darkness that began to corrupt his thoughts and actions. He started to distance himself from his friends and family, becoming more secretive and paranoid. Upon returning to the village, Ajadi resumed his teachings, but now his lessons were tinged with a sense of superiority and arrogance. He demanded unwavering obedience from the villagers and grew increasingly intolerant of dissent. Those who questioned his new ways were met with harsh punishments, and fear began to spread through Nzulezo. The once harmonious village was now under the rule of Ajadi's iron fist. He used the talisman's power to enforce his will, summoning storms to punish those who defied him, and manipulating nature to bend to his commands. The villagers, who had once revered Ajadi for his wisdom and kindness, now feared and resented him. Ajadi's transformation was complete when he declared himself the supreme leader of Nzulezo, usurping the authority of the elders. He dismissed their council, believing that his knowledge and power surpassed theirs. The village elders, heartbroken by the change in Ajadi, could only watch as their beloved community fell into chaos. Anansi, who had been observing from the shadows, revealed his true intentions. He had been testing Ajadi, seeking a worthy successor to inherit his dark legacy. Pleased with Ajadi's descent into tyranny, Anansi offered to teach him even more powerful and dangerous spells. Blinded by ambition, Ajadi accepted, further sealing his fate. The village of Nzulezo, once a beacon of peace and wisdom, had become a place of fear and suffering under Ajadi's rule. The people longed for the return of the kind and wise Ajadi they once knew, but it seemed that he was lost forever, consumed by the very knowledge and power he had sought to obtain. The once prosperous village of Nzulezo began to suffer under Ajadi's tyrannical rule. The harmony that once characterized the village had been replaced by fear and distrust. Crops failed, fish became scarce, and the once clear waters of the Black Volta River turned murky. It seemed as though the very land and water were rebelling against Ajadi's misuse of power. Natural disasters began to plague Nzulezo. Unprecedented storms battered the village, destroying homes and causing widespread flooding. The villagers whispered that the gods were angry, punishing them for Ajadi's hubris and the dark magic he wielded. Sickness spread through the village, and the healers, who once relied on Ajadi's wisdom, found their remedies ineffective against the mysterious illnesses afflicting the people. Ajadi, in his paranoia, believed that the villagers were conspiring against him. He became increasingly reclusive, shutting himself away in his home with the talisman. He spent his days and nights poring over ancient texts and communing with dark spirits, seeking greater power to maintain his control. His once bright eyes grew hollow, and his appearance became gaunt and haggard. The villagers, meanwhile, grew more desperate. They longed for the days of peace and prosperity and began to talk of revolt. The elders, though weakened and marginalized by AJADI, quietly organized secret meetings to discuss how they might save their village. They knew that confronting AJADI directly would be dangerous, but they had no choice if they were to reclaim their home. Under the cover of darkness, the villagers gathered in the deepest parts of the forest, far from AJADI's watchful eyes. Led by the elders, they devised a plan to overthrow AJADI and destroy the talisman. They knew that without it, AJADI's power would be significantly diminished. The key to their plan was secrecy and unity. Every villager needed to be ready to act at the right moment. AJADI, now completely consumed by his paranoia, had set up spies throughout the village. He had an inkling that something was brewing, but was too isolated in his madness to discern the details. He increased his patrols, imposing stricter curfews and harsher punishments for any perceived disobedience. The villagers, however, remained resolute, their fear of AJADI outweighed by their desire for freedom. The night of the revolt finally arrived. The elders led the charge, each armed with nothing but their courage and the determination to restore peace. They approached AJADI's home, a once humble abode now turned into a dark fortress. The villagers moved silently, their hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. As they surrounded the house, AJADI's most trusted friends and family members, who had been secretly aiding the elders, confronted him. They begged AJADI to see reason, to remember the man he once was. But AJADI, now completely under the talisman's dark influence, saw their pleas as betrayal. Enraged, he used the talisman to summon a storm, hoping to scatter the rebels and reassert his dominance. The curse unleashed. The storm AJADI summoned was unlike any the villagers had ever seen. Fierce winds howled, and lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the terrified faces of the villagers. The elders, undeterred, pressed forward, their resolve unwavering. They knew that this was their last chance to save Nzulezo. As they reached AJADI, the confrontation escalated. The power of the talisman surged, and AJADI's eyes glowed with a malevolent light. He raised his hand to unleash a final devastating spell, but in that moment of ultimate power, something inside him faltered. He saw the faces of his friends and family, the people he had once loved and protected, and a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. This moment of hesitation was enough. One of the elders, an old woman named Kunto, lunged forward and grabbed the talisman. As she did, the dark magic within it was unleashed, and a blinding light filled the air. The force of the explosion knocked everyone to the ground, and the talisman shattered into pieces. The dark energy that had been contained within the talisman erupted, spreading chaos and destruction. The storm intensified, and a dark presence enveloped the village. AJADI, now powerless and fully aware of the consequences of his actions, watched in horror as the village he once loved was torn apart by the very power he had sought to control. In the aftermath of the explosion, the villagers slowly regained their footing. The storm subsided, but the damage was done. Homes were destroyed, and the village lay in ruins. AJADI, stripped of his power and consumed by guilt, was left alone in the wreckage of his dreams. The villagers, though they had succeeded in their revolt, mourned the loss of their once thriving community. In the days that followed, AJADI was shunned by the villagers. They held him responsible for the destruction and suffering that had befallen Nzulezo. AJADI, now a shadow of his former self, wandered the ruins of the village, haunted by the consequences of his ambition. The weight of his mistakes bore down on him, and he realized the true cost of his quest for power. Isolated and broken, AJADI retreated to a small, secluded hut on the outskirts of the village. He spent his days in solitude, reflecting on his actions and the choices that had led to his downfall. Memories of his past, the love of his family, the wisdom of the elders, and the joy of his childhood filled his mind, and he was overwhelmed with regret. AJADI knew that he had to make amends for the harm he had caused. He began a journey of redemption, seeking to right the wrongs he had committed. He started by helping to rebuild the village, using his knowledge to aid in the reconstruction efforts. Though the villagers were wary of him at first, they gradually began to see the sincerity of his remorse. He sought out the elders, humbling himself before them and asking for their forgiveness. He listened to their guidance once more, recognizing the wisdom in their words that he had once disregarded. Slowly, he earned back their trust, though the road to redemption was long and fraught with challenges. Through his efforts, AJADI began to restore some semblance of peace to Nzulezo. The village slowly rebuilt itself, and the people started to heal from the wounds of the past. AJADI's redemption, however, required a final, ultimate sacrifice. Realizing that the dark presence unleashed by the talisman still lingered, AJADI knew he had to cleanse the village of its taint. Guided by the elders, he undertook a dangerous ritual to banish the darkness once and for all. The ritual required him to confront the very essence of the power he had once craved, to face his deepest fears and regrets. In a solemn ceremony by the river, AJADI performed the ritual. As he chanted the ancient incantations, the dark presence emerged, threatening to overwhelm him. But AJADI, fueled by his desire to save his village, stood firm. He summoned every ounce of strength and willpower, and with a final heart-wrenching cry, he banished the darkness from Nzulezo. The villagers watched in awe as the skies cleared, and a sense of peace settled over the village. AJADI, exhausted and weakened, collapsed by the riverbank. He had given everything to save his people, and in doing so had redeemed himself. AJADI's ultimate sacrifice served as a powerful lesson for the people of Nzulezo. They learned the dangers of unchecked ambition and the value of wisdom, humility, and community. The village elders ensured that AJADI's story was passed down through generations as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the importance of staying true to one's values and the dangers of seeking power at any cost. In the end, Nzulezo was restored to its former glory, and AJADI's legacy lived on, not as a tale of tyranny, but as a story of redemption and the enduring power of wisdom and humility.